I've been reluctant to talk about this publicly and to my fans, but it's been a while.
The country music world has been shaken, and fans everywhere are holding their breath. Alan Jackson, the legendary voice behind timeless hits like Chattahoochee and Remember When, has made headlines that no one saw coming. For over 4 decades, Jackson has been a symbol of authenticity, a storyteller whose songs captured the joys, sorrows, and dreams of everyday Americans. From sold-out stadiums to intimate shows, his music has shaped the soundtrack of countless lives. But recently, the man who has spent a lifetime on stage revealed a personal battle that would change everything. It started quietly, whispers of health struggles that fans could only sense in subtle changes during performances. Then, the truth came out. Alan Jackson has been battling Charcot-Marie tooth disease, a neurological disorder that affects mobility and balance. For a performer whose career depends on rhythm, energy, and the physical demands of touring, this revelation hit hard. Yet, even in the face of adversity, Jackson refused to let it define him. His determination to continue performing, even as symptoms worsened, revealed a resilience that has become as legendary as his music. Now, after years on the road, Jackson has made a decision that has left fans both heartbroken and inspired. He is retiring from touring. His final performances, culminating in emotional appearances at major award ceremonies, are more than just concerts. They are a celebration of a career that has touched millions. Tonight, we dive deep into the latest news about Alan Jackson, the health battles, the farewell tour, the emotional highlights, and the legacy that will outlast every stage he's ever graced. For over 40 years, Alan Jackson has been a defining force in country music, a man whose voice and lyrics have resonated with fans across generations. From his humble beginnings in Noonan, Georgia, to sold-out arenas around the world, Jackson's journey has always been one of perseverance, authenticity, and a relentless love for the craft. But behind the hits and accolades, a silent struggle was unfolding, one that would forever alter the course of his career. In 2021, Jackson publicly revealed that he had been diagnosed with Charcot-Marie tooth disease, a hereditary neurological disorder that gradually weakens the peripheral nerves, affecting both mobility and balance. For a performer whose life revolved around the stage, this diagnosis was life-altering. Charcot-Marie tooth, or CMT, is not a condition most fans would immediately recognize. It's progressive, often invisible to outsiders, and deeply personal in its impact. For Jackson, it meant facing the reality that his performances could become physically demanding, sometimes even impossible. The subtle signs were there: a slight hesitance in movement, a slower stride across the stage, the careful positioning of his guitar. Yet Jackson refused to let his diagnosis dictate his career. He continued touring, determined to perform for the fans who had supported him for decades. The stage, after all, was more than a platform. It was a place of connection, where every note and lyric created memories for countless listeners. In 2022, Jackson launched what would ultimately become his farewell tour. Last Call, One More for the Road. This tour was both a celebration of his legendary career and a personal statement of resilience. Jackson used the platform not only to entertain, but also to raise awareness for CMT, donating portions of the proceeds to research initiatives. Yet the disease was unrelenting. Concerts had to be postponed, and the rigors of life on the road became increasingly taxing. The reality of his condition weighed heavily on him, as he balanced a desire to continue performing with the physical limitations imposed by his illness. By 2024, Jackson made the difficult decision to officially retire from touring. It was a decision born not of defeat, but of pragmatism and self-preservation. He wanted to maintain the quality of his performances and to cherish the time left with his family, particularly his wife, Denise, who had been his steadfast support through decades of touring, songwriting, and now health struggles. His announcement was met with an outpouring of support from fans and fellow musicians alike, all acknowledging the courage it took to step back from the stage after such a storied career. Jackson's journey through this health battle is more than a story of physical struggle. It is a story of determination, humility, and resilience. Every performance during these final years became a testament to his dedication, a moment where fans could witness the heart behind the music. The subtle, faltering steps, the measured pacing across the stage, and the moments of reflection during songs all painted a portrait of an artist who had given everything he had, yet faced adversity with quiet strength. In revealing his battle with CMT, Jackson not only humanized himself to millions of fans, but also inspired others facing their own challenges. He became a symbol of courage in the face of circumstances that could have easily ended a lesser career. Ultimately, the health challenges that changed Jackson's career were met with grace, professionalism, and an unwavering love for music. His story reminds us that even legends are human, and that the struggles behind the scenes often make their triumphs even more remarkable. For Alan Jackson, this chapter of his life was not about endings. It was about facing reality, embracing limitations, and proving that resilience and passion can coexist. Even in the most challenging circumstances, his journey through illness and perseverance would set the stage for the emotional farewell that fans would witness in the years to come. A farewell that would forever cement his legacy as one of country music's most beloved and courageous figures. Even as Alan Jackson confronted the physical challenges of his health, his career and contributions to country music were reaching new heights of recognition. On May 8, 2025, during the 60th Annual Academy of Country Music Awards, Jackson received an honor that would forever enshrine his name in music history, the inaugural Alan Jackson Lifetime Achievement Award. This was no ordinary accolade. It was a recognition created specifically to celebrate an artist who had achieved extraordinary success while leaving a lasting imprint on the genre, both nationally and internationally. The award acknowledged a career marked not just by chart-topping hits, but by an unwavering dedication to the craft. Countless performances that touched fans' hearts, philanthropic contributions, and a legacy of influence on generations of musicians. The ceremony itself was a deeply emotional affair. As the announcement was made, the audience erupted in applause, with fellow musicians, industry veterans, and fans paying tribute to a career that had shaped country music for decades. From his earliest days performing in local bars and honky-tonk venues, to his rise as a chart-dominating superstar, Jackson had always exemplified authenticity. His music was a reflection of his life, honest, relatable, and infused with a sincerity that resonated with listeners everywhere. The award highlighted not just his talent, but the way he carried himself, his humility, and his impact on the culture of country music. In his acceptance speech, Jackson's voice trembled with gratitude. He reflected on the journey that had brought him from a small town in Georgia to the pinnacle of the music industry. "I wouldn't be here without my fans, my family, and especially my wife Denise, who has stood by me through thick and thin," he said, pausing to acknowledge the decades of unwavering support that had sustained him both personally and professionally. The award became more than a recognition of past achievements. It was a celebration of perseverance, resilience, and the emotional connection between artist and audience. Every note he had sung, every song he had written, and every mile he had traveled on the road contributed to the legacy being honored that night. The Lifetime Achievement Award also served as a reminder of the importance of acknowledging artists while they are still able to appreciate the full impact of their work. Jackson's career was not merely a series of successes. It was a continuous journey of storytelling, shaping the sound of modern country and influencing countless artists who followed in his footsteps. The tribute speeches from fellow musicians underscored this point. They spoke of his mentorship, his dedication to the genre, and the humanity he brought to every performance. Jackson's influence extended beyond music charts. It was felt in the hearts of listeners who found solace, joy, and inspiration in his songs. Perhaps the most profound aspect of this honor was the way it reflected Jackson's resilience in the face of adversity. Despite the physical challenges that had led him to retire from touring, he stood on that stage as a testament to enduring passion. The Lifetime Achievement Award symbolized more than recognition. It symbolized triumph, the culmination of decades of devotion to an art form he loved deeply. For the fans and the country music community, it was a historic moment, one that reinforced the emotional connection they shared with a man who had spent his life translating the human experience into song. In the end, the inaugural Alan Jackson Lifetime Achievement Award did more than commemorate a career. It celebrated the heart, soul, and unwavering spirit of a musician who had given everything to his craft. It was a recognition not only of talent, but of character, resilience, and the profound impact one artist can have on an entire genre. For Jackson, this moment became a defining chapter in a life already rich with accomplishment. A chapter that ensured his legacy would endure long after the final chord had faded from the stage. Alan Jackson's Last Call, One More for the Road Tour wasn't just another series of live performances. It was a farewell etched in emotion, memory, and deep gratitude. A final chapter in a remarkable journey that had spanned over 4 decades. When Jackson stepped on stage during this tour, fans weren't just witnessing a concert. They were witnessing a living legend offering his final bow. From the very first stop in 2022, there was something different in the air. Jackson wasn't just performing, he was sharing, reflecting, and inviting his audience to walk with him one last time down the musical roads they'd traveled together since the late 1980s. As the tour progressed, each city became a gathering place for generations of fans who had grown up with his songs, couples who had danced to Remember When at their weddings, fathers and sons who bonded over Drive for Daddy Jean, people who found healing in Sissy's song, or celebration in Good Time. These weren't just performances, they were collective. Experiences of joy, nostalgia, and heartfelt connection. But behind every smile on stage, there was also the visible toll of Jackson's battle with Charcot-Marie Tooth disease. Fans could see it in the way he moved, slower and more deliberate than before, and in the way he sometimes steadied himself. Yet he pressed on, not for fame or glory, but because, as he'd often said, "This is what I do. This is who I am." By 2024, as the tour entered its final legs, the reality began to settle in. This was it. The last chance for fans to hear "Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning?" live. The last opportunity to feel the energy of Chattahoochee fill an arena. The farewell wasn't just for Jackson. It was for everyone who had made his music part of their life's soundtrack. And nowhere was that emotional weight felt more than at the final stops of the tour. On May 17, 2025, Jackson took the stage in Milwaukee for what would be one of his final official shows. As thousands of fans looked on, many in tears, he offered a moment of raw honesty. "Y'all may have heard that I'm kinda winding down," he said with a soft smile. "In fact, this is my last roadshow of my career." The crowd responded not with silence, but with overwhelming applause, an outpouring of love and respect for a man who had given so much of himself for so many years. Jackson made it clear that while the road may be ending, the music was not. Plans for one last show in Nashville, the city where his dreams first began, were teased during the concert, with Jackson promising a big finale in Music City. Fans clung to the hope of one more unforgettable night, a final celebration of all that he had achieved and all that he stood for. Through it all, the tour remained grounded in gratitude. Jackson often paused mid-performance to thank his band, his team, and most importantly, his family. Denise, his wife of over 40 years, was often mentioned with deep affection, as were his daughters. He wasn't just a country icon, he was a husband, a father, a man facing a difficult diagnosis with grace. Media coverage of the tour was equally emotional. News outlets praised Jackson for his honesty and humility, noting that even in retirement he continued to inspire. Video clips from the concerts showed fans holding signs that read, "Thank you, Alan, and your music changed my life." Others simply stood quietly, soaking in every lyric, knowing it could be the last time they heard it live. And when the final chords rang out, when Jackson tipped his hat for the last time on tour, there was no sadness, only reverence. He had given everything he could, and the world had noticed. Jackson's last call wasn't just a tour, it was a goodbye letter written in melody. A farewell from a man who never chased trends, never lost his values, and never sang a word he didn't mean. In every sense, it was the most honest tour he'd ever done. And in that honesty, he reminded fans everywhere that goodbyes, though painful, can be beautiful when done with heart, humility, and the love of those who've walked with you every step of the way. When the final curtain falls for most artists, the silence afterward can feel deafening. But for Alan Jackson, The end of his touring days has only amplified the echoes of a legacy that will never fade. Though he may no longer be on the road, the man who gave voice to everyday hopes and heartbreaks has left behind something far greater than sold-out arenas or platinum records. He's left a legacy of truth, simplicity, and emotional honesty that continues to shape country music from the inside out. Alan Jackson was never about flashy performances or chasing chart trends. His music didn't rely on gimmicks or spectacle. Instead, he built his career on timeless storytelling, tales of family, faith, hard work, and love. And now, with his touring years behind him, that music stands as a living archive of the American spirit, wrapped in the warm twang of steel guitars and the wisdom of a man who never lost touch with where he came from. Following the final shows of his Last Call tour, Jackson spoke candidly to fans and the press about what comes next. And while the physical toll of Charcot-Marie tooth disease has slowed his pace, it has not dulled his passion. "I still want to write songs. I still want to record," he said, making it clear that though the stage lights may dim, the songwriter's pen remains in his hand. He's shifted his focus now to family, spending more time with his wife Denise, who stood by his side since before fame found them, and cherishing moments with his daughters. For a man who sang so often about the meaning of home and the passage of time, this new chapter feels right, grounded, heartfelt, and deeply true to who he's always been. But Jackson's influence isn't confined to what he might still write. His impact ripples through an entire generation of country artists who cite him as a foundational influence. You can hear it in their music, the echoes of his straightforward lyrics, his reverence for tradition, his refusal to compromise artistic integrity for commercial success. Artists like Chris Stapleton, Luke Combs, and Cody Johnson have openly acknowledged Jackson's role in paving the way for authenticity in modern country music. In an industry increasingly shaped by pop crossover appeal and digital trends, Alan Jackson remains a touchstone for what country music used to be and still can be. Industry tributes continue to pour in. Award shows play extended montages of his performances, radio stations dedicate weekends to his catalog, and documentaries are in development that aim to capture not just his career, but his essence. Fans old and new continue to discover his music, many of them finding comfort in lyrics that speak to universal truths. Songs like "Where Were You When the World Stopped Turning" now serve as cultural time capsules, preserving collective emotion during moments of national heartbreak. "Drive" for Daddy Gene continues to stir the souls of fathers and sons, and "Livin' on Love" has become an anthem for lifelong devotion in a world that often forgets what commitment means. These aren't just songs, they're emotional blueprints, and Jackson wrote them with quiet, powerful purpose. And now, as his name becomes forever etched in the annals of music history, celebrated not only with awards and honors but in the hearts of millions, Alan Jackson finds himself in a rare position. He is both a man looking back on a storied past and an artist still dreaming of what's to come. The road behind him is long and lined with milestones, but it's the miles ahead, the ones spent in reflection and stillness, that may reveal his deepest truths. In the words of Jackson himself, "It's been a long, sweet ride, and that ride, while quieter now, still continues, in every living room where his songs are played, in every guitar strummed by a kid learning to write their first country song, and in every soul that finds peace in a melody he once sang." So no, this isn't the end. Not for Alan Jackson. The man may have stepped away from the stage, but the music, the feeling, the message, the memory, that will never leave us. And in the world of country music, that kind of legacy isn't just rare. It's eternal.